Grading with a purpose. Everyone has a history with grades, but there's a range of emotions that might arise from thinking back to the last time you received one. Whether you had commonly high or low grades, they had a powerful impact on shaping your perceptions of what learning is, as well as your beliefs about yourself and your capabilities. More than any other assessment practice, grading has the potential to erode hope for students. So it's an important area to get right. While there are many philosophical considerations related to grading practices, it's important to remember the most fundamental purpose of grading is to communicate accurate information about students' learning. No matter how many debates teachers engage in about how many grades to put on a report card, which topics should be assigned grades, and how often grades should be given, if they aren't communicating accurate information, they just aren't useful. One of the most common hindrances to accurate grades is when a single grade reflects both academic understanding and other factors like work completion, effort, or timeliness. Just because a student turned something in late doesn't mean they don't know as much as someone who turned it in on time. And just because someone tried hard doesn't mean they learned enough to get a top grade. That doesn't mean students shouldn't be graded in areas that reflect responsible habits or productive learning behaviors. The recommendation is to simply mark them as separate grades from academic learning. The separation communicates more accurately than a single grade does. It's also important to remember that it's not a grade that will teach a student the habits necessary to be responsible. They need instruction in those areas, just like they do academics. These two charts show what happens when grades are calculated based on either an average of all data points or using the most recent level of performance. When data points are averaged, students get penalized for starting out at a lower proficiency level than they end. Grading should reflect the most current level of performance because that is a more accurate picture of what they learned. Tom Schimmer, a grading expert, says, "Once they know something, it's no longer relevant that they used to not know it." Grades should also be based more on summative experiences than formative or practice experiences. Students need low stakes while they're learning something in order to feel comfortable taking the risks that actually improve their learning. This space leads to actual learning as opposed to students being preoccupied with simply accumulating points. Grades without a clear connection to well-understood learning goals are meaningless to students and difficult for their families to make sense of. Part of using grades to communicate involves knowing which experiences they're connected to. The number of grades to include on a report card is a delicate balance. In order to communicate accurate information about their learning, there needs to be enough grades to give some specific information, but too many grades is overwhelming. If you only get one letter or number that represents all of reading, for example, it's difficult to know which areas of reading are strengths and which areas to keep working on. In summary, grades aren't actually needed in order for learning to occur. They're intended to verify that learning has occurred. The fundamental purpose of grading should be to communicate accurate information about a student's learning.